Being in a toxic relationship is one of the most challenging experiences that a woman can face. It brings up so much pain on so many levels and can completely consume that individual's life. So in today's video, I'm going to talk you through a little bit more about what you can do to let go, to move on, and to truly heal from a toxic relationship. Now, when a woman is in a toxic relationship, you often see some common themes and patterns occurring. And in the last decade, working with women specifically, I've often seen these 6 thoughts and patterns occurring that creates an intense amount of pain for them. And the first pattern that I see is self-doubt. You see, when a woman is in a toxic relationship, what you often find is that they'll start to doubt themselves. They'll feel like they're not good enough. They'll start to question themselves all the time. They'll question their own judgment. They'll question their own decisions. And on some level, they'll also feel as if they're deserving of some of the treatment that they're getting. Second pattern that I often see is isolation. See, a lot of women who are going through these relationships find themselves being isolated from the world. They're feeling controlled. They're not allowed to see the people that they want to see. They're basically being completely controlled in terms of all of the things that they want to be doing. And so they lose themselves. They're not able to really connect in with who they really are, because what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to act is completely dictated by the husband or the partner. And as a result, fundamentally, she feels like she's got no support, no foundations whatsoever. And there can also be a little bit of a twist where the partner actually makes them feel like no one else even cares. And so because I don't care, well, then what's the point of even reaching out to those individuals? And so it can often create this sense of just being in a bubble and feeling completely isolated from the world and just having no ability to be able to get out of that. Thirdly, there's also a sense of rationalization that occurs. There's often justifications for certain behaviors. Oh, he's acting like this because he's going through some tough times at work, or he's struggling in his own life, or, yeah, he's got some wounds that he's having to work through, and, he's going to be okay, and I know he's going to change, and so on. And in addition to that, this mindset can also prevent them from actually observing and really seeing the toxic behavior for what it is. They just effectively just push it to the side and are not necessarily aware of what's going on, and aren't necessarily aware properly of what's actually going on, the severity of some of the behavior. The fourth characteristic is fear and intimidation. The environment itself fosters fear, fosters intimidation. Often people are worried that if they were to walk away, then there may be physical abuse, emotional abuse. And so they feel completely trapped in this environment, not knowing what they can do to be able to get out and actually protect themselves. And in addition to this, it's also that inability to be able to envision a life without that person. So therefore, it's a case of, well, I'd rather be in this environment and tolerate the circumstances on some level than to be able to walk away and have no sense of vision of what that even looks like. It's kind of like the better the devil you know than the devil you don't. So individuals will often stay in an environment, at least they know what it's like, rather than entering into an environment which is completely unknown. The fifth is a level of optimism. See, a lot of people in these relationships, even though they know it's bad, there's a part of them that goes, oh, but he's a lovely guy, because there'll often be moments where he will be kind and he will be generous, and you get hooked into those feelings. And so okay, well, there is that part of him. So I believe he can change. He's a good man. I believe he will change at some point. He's just going through some tough times, which extends on the justification point that I mentioned before. So there's this optimism. There's this part of him that just holds on to that. Problem is, though, is that some individuals aren't going to change. They aren't going to shift. And they're going to keep those behaviors running, which then keeps the victim of those behaviors locked in that place altogether. And finally, there's a huge amount of emotional pain that comes with this. It's an intense level of fluctuating emotions. Sometimes you're high and you're feeling great because you might get a couple of breadcrumbs. Other times you're just feeling down and out, and you feel like you're on this massive wave of emotions that it becomes so draining. And because as human beings, we aren't often taught about how to even manage our emotions, it just feels like a lost cause. It feels like it's impossible for us to create the shifts that we're actually looking for. So these are often the patterns and the thoughts that are experienced by so many women that I talk to in my own practice when it comes to toxic relationships. The question is now is how do we actually move forward? How do we heal? What can we do to actually progress on this journey? Because when you're in that environment, it is so tough to get out. But I want you to know that you can heal through this, that you can move forward, that I know at the moment it doesn't feel like you can, but I promise you that you absolutely can do. Now, the reason why it's often tough is because when you're dealing with that level of pain, often what can happen is a lot of individuals will have a lot of those intense emotions, not just from this environment, but also from experiences that they would have dealt with when they were younger. I can tell you right now, as someone who had to deal with bullying and various other forms of abuse, not so much from my family, but from other important people in my life at the time, it is so harmful. You know, at that time, you start to create a different meaning and a different narrative in terms of your own life and who you believe you are. So for example, when we're a kid, and if we're told that we're not good enough at something, or we're useless, or we're failing, or you're stupid, or whatever you may have heard, that then creates a belief in our own mind. See, when we're first born into this world, we are completely open, and we're like a blank slate, if you like. And then each experience that we have creates certain imprints on our brain. And so if we hear words like, oh, you're not good enough, or you should have done better, then it's easy for us to lock that into our brain and feel like, well, look, we're not good enough. And so imagine carrying that for the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. Imagine the challenges that people can face when they do that. And as I said, I know in my own life, that's exactly what happened to me. And it was crushing on so many levels. And I put on a straight face, but deep inside, I was hurting. I was hurting a lot. But there came a point where I said to myself, you know what? I can't go on living like this. It is going to destroy me. It is going to drag me down. And I don't want to deal with the consequences of it anymore. And I had to get to that place because before that, I was addicted to operating in that way. I was operating in a way where I felt, you know what? What's the point of even doing any of this stuff? Or nothing ever works out for me. The universe is torturing me again. God doesn't love me, and so on. So I had all these beliefs in my own mind, and I was addicted to operating like that. That was my addiction. And so I effectively had to get to a place where I said, you know what? My desire for pleasure and healing outweighs my addictive tendencies towards staying in a place that I know and I am familiar with. We are often caught up in patterns that we're familiar with. Even if it creates pain inside of us, we will stay stuck with patterns that we are used to operating with because it provides us with a sense of knowing. But we have to venture into the unknown. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to explain to you 5 steps that you can start to take to be able to heal, to be able to transform, and to move forward from a toxic relationship. Now, the first step that you need to take is that you've got to have that belief that you can actually heal. Now, I know that's really tough because you're in the fire at the moment and it's tough. And I so feel the pain that you're probably going through at the moment. I really do. But even if you just have this micro belief, just this part of you that's open to the idea that you can actually heal, that you can move forward, that's a really important step to take. Because when you have that belief on the inside, when you just have that tiny bit of you that goes, you know what, maybe there is a way out. Maybe there is a way that I can heal from this. Maybe I can find some peace. Maybe I can move forward. It may be that my past experiences don't have to run my life moving forward. It's kind of like the boat. When you're driving a boat, there is the wake, which is the trail that's left behind. Now, the trail doesn't run the boat. And what we're often saying is my past experiences then dictates how I move forward in my life, but it doesn't have to be that way. The wake doesn't have to control the boat. What controls the boat is the present moment actions that are occurring on that boat. Just like in your life, your present moment actions dictate what happens in your future. So if you can have that little micro belief that just says that I can move forward here, I can heal, and that I deserve some sense of happiness here, then that can at least give you that little spark to get some momentum. Now, the second step that you want to take is to assume responsibility for your emotions. Now, what I mean by that, just to be clear, I'm not saying that you take responsibility for the relationship and all the struggles that you've had and all of his behaviors at all. None of that. What we're taking responsibility for are the emotions that are being created on the inside. Yes, he would have acted in certain ways that triggered those emotions, but once we take ownership of those feelings that we have, then we have the power to change it. If we don't take responsibility for those emotions, what ends up happening is we give our power away to the other person, and they need to act in certain ways to then make us feel better. It's a really difficult situation to be in because we have no control on any level. Now think of it this way. Let's say you've got two people who are going into a job interview, and one person is really, really excited and is like, yep, I can't wait. I can't wait to answer those questions. I can't wait to blow their socks off. I just know that I'm going to do a great job. And another person's like, oh my God, what happens if I fail? What happens if I screw up? What happens if I don't answer those questions properly? I'm going to look stupid. I'm not going to be able to pay my rent, etc. The difference is, same scenario, but two different mindsets that determine how they're going to respond in those circumstances. So what I'm trying to point out here is that if we can shift our mindset a little bit and recognize that we can take ownership of our own emotions, then that gives us the power and the control to be able to dictate how we approach different situations. So I'm not saying you have to do anything magical here. All I'm saying is that if you can own those emotions and go, okay, I'm feeling this rejection right now. I'm feeling inadequate. I'm feeling like I'm being abandoned. I'm feeling like I'm just not worthy of love. If you can own those and recognize those are things inside of you and accept those emotions are there, but you're not accepting them so that you can continue them into the future. You're just allowing them to just be there in the present moment. Then you can say, all right, well, because I accept those now, I actually recognize that they are within my power now to be able to create a shift. So whenever I have any negative emotions on any level, the first step that I'll always take is I will get to a place where I say, okay, I accept these feelings of rejection, these feelings of sadness, these feelings of anger, whatever it is. I accept them first. That doesn't mean I'm saying, hey, look, I want to continue feeling that way and that I'm the problem or anything like that. I'm just simply accepting the emotions that are on the inside. Not the thoughts, not the beliefs, not the story that I've got in my mind, but just my feelings. And when I accept those and I allow them to be, and I say, yeah, I am scared right now. That's okay. Then there's a certain peace that comes with that. Because it's the resistance that causes the problems. We feel these negative emotions and we don't want to feel them, or we're putting it onto someone else, or we're getting angry at them, or whatever it is. We find that that's what we call resistance, and that resistance creates more of the pain. But if we say, look, yeah, I am feeling this sadness, I'm feeling this anger, etc., and I'm okay with it, I'm going to allow myself to make peace with it at the moment, then by making peace with it in the moment, you empower yourself to then say, okay, now I can move forward here. Now I can actually start healing properly. Thirdly, you've got to allow yourself to experience your emotions. Now, I know this might sound even more intense, but what we're essentially doing here is allowing yourself to look at emotions in a different light. See, a lot of people try and change their thoughts and change their beliefs and all of that stuff. And that's all good and well from time to time. But the truth is that when we're dealing with deep pain, like stuff that's we've had to deal with for years, decades potentially, just trying to change a thought it's such a hard thing to do. It is really, really difficult. And I actually believe that what we need to be doing is healing the emotions first, healing the emotional wounds that have been opened up. And so just a simple technique that you can start doing is just give yourself a few minutes where you experience the emotion as an energy in the body. We don't create a story or anything around it. We don't say, okay, well, this is anger and it came up because of him saying this to me and I felt like this and I felt all this anger and I felt frustrated, or he said this to me and I felt scared and vulnerable and I was afraid. And if we create that narrative around it, we keep that pain locked in, right? And I'm not trying to invalidate anything that you're feeling. All we're doing is saying, look, rather than talking about the actions and the behaviors and the meaning that it's created inside of you, what we're doing is we're simply allowing ourselves to feel the physical sensations of that emotion. So let's say you're feeling that rejection. Where do you feel that in your body? Whereabouts in your body are you experiencing that emotion? And just spend a few minutes and just feel it. Just feel the physical sensations. Anytime the brain comes, just let it pass, but just feel those physical sensations, just as a simple technique that you can start off with. That's really, really important and something that you can do right now. And that helps you with the process of acceptance of emotions, but it allows you to slowly release some of the energy behind it. And what I've found in my life, obviously this is a simple technique, there's a lot more complexities to it, but when you go through the depths of that and you start to create those shifts, the transformation is very subtle. What I found in my own life is that you slowly start to go, this is weird, I'm not reacting in the same way, or I'm not feeling as much of that pain as I used to. It's not this sudden euphoric moment, it's just a little subtle shift. And those subtle shifts start to stack up over time. And the fourth thing to do is to really start shifting your identity. And part of shifting that identity essentially means that you're changing your beliefs about who you are as a person, and you're also changing the story and the narrative about the experience that you're having right now. So part of that means is that you have to buy into the idea that you are enough as a person, that you are beautiful, that you are amazing just as you are, that you are perfect in your own imperfection. It's one of the sayings that I always use on a regular basis. I am perfect in my own imperfection. Because we are. None of us came into this world not being perfect. We are perfect in our own magical way. Doesn't mean we're going to do everything perfectly. It doesn't mean we're going to get everything right all the time. Of course it's going to mean that we're going to make mistakes. But we're perfect in our own imperfection. And we are enough and we are worthy of love. And you've got to buy into that idea. And if you start to repeat those thoughts and really drill that into your mind as much as you possibly can, then you'll slowly start to believe it. And it's not just about shifting your thoughts, it's also about looking back on these experiences and remembering that all of the things that have happened, not just in the relationship, but even when you were younger, those tough experiences have helped you and will help you to get to a place where you're able to heal, and that those experiences can be used for your own growth. I've had some really challenging times in my life, but there were some times, especially when I was younger, that I was, I'd cry myself to sleep. There were some really, really difficult times. But I look back on all of those things, all of those challenges that I've had, and I'm so grateful for them, because those challenges, without them, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. I wouldn't have had the opportunities to actually grow and to heal and to create the shifts that I needed to. And, I'm really grateful for those things. So if you can start to look back on some of those experiences, and no matter how tough they are, and look, I know that there's going to be some things and you'll be like, look, how can I possibly be grateful for any of that stuff? And rather than maybe feeling grateful for it, you can be grateful for the learnings that maybe come out of it. Even though it's tough, you're going to be able to move forward in a much more positive way. Now, the thing is, the reason why this is one of the latter steps is because you want to be doing a lot of the emotional healing first. And that's really, really important. And once you do the emotional healing, then you can start to shift the thoughts in a much simpler way. Whereas if you're going to try and change those thoughts now, without actually shifting anything emotionally, you're not going to believe it. And that's where it becomes quite challenging. And finally, as a rule that I want you to apply, just really focus on progress and not perfection. You don't have to get it right. You don't have to be perfect with it. if you can take micro steps along the way and really like celebrate those steps and know that there are going to be some times where you feel like you're taking 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, that's okay. Like, that's really, really good. And just keep taking those small micro steps along the way, and I promise you the healing is possible. I know that there'll be parts of you that's probably going, yeah, whatever, like this is not possible, or transformation is not possible, or whatever, but I'm telling you, not only am I living proof, but so many of my clients who have been through the absolute mill and have had to go through so many tough times have been able to create such amazing healing, and you are no different. You absolutely can do this. And, you know, from there, they can really assist you in starting to move forward in terms of healing from a toxic relationship, moving forward, and then laying the platform and the foundations for someone magical to come into your life. Now, just recently in the last month, I've worked with women who I had worked with previously years ago and have just recently got married to incredible men. Just beautiful, beautiful men who are of high value, high integrity, incredible standards, and their relationship is just built on a totally different foundation from what their previous relationships were. So change is possible and change is real. Now, I know going through a tough time in a relationship and doing some of that healing work on the inside is really, really challenging. There's no doubt about that. And so if you are needing a little bit more support, if you want to be part of an amazing community of women who have had to go through some tough times but been able to create some shifts, and you want to feel that sense of inspiration and be supported along your way through that healing process, then I'd love you to be a part of my program, the Authentic Relationship System, which is an amazing program where we go deep into your own transformation, really learning more about male psychology as well as you're going through your relationship, be able to lay the right platforms for you. So if it feels right for you, if you resonate with me and like my New Zealand accent and so on, then I'd encourage you in the description section below, just click on that link where it says book a call with me. Just click on that link, choose a time that works for you, and then I'll contact you at that scheduled time just so I can learn a little bit more about your circumstances, what we can do to really help you to heal and create that shift that you're looking for in your life right now. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you've liked it, make sure you hit that like button below. If you want to get more videos like this, hit that subscribe button. And do let me know if you've got any comments or any questions or anything like that. Just post them in the comment section below. I'll make sure I respond to every single one of you. And if you're wanting to learn why walking away can make you so attractive in your relationship, then just click this video above. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next video.